Hey guys, we're in Irvine, California at Bosch North America headquarters. We're with Jonathan Weinart.
Hey
How
there.
you doing, man? It's good to
Great.
see you. And
Glad to have you back here, Corey.
I see you all the time at different events and stuff, and this time you're giving us special backdoor access to the shop.
Come on in, Corey.
Let's do it. I got to be kind of careful in here. The bubble wrap bikes are like the top secret stuff, right?
Yes, keep the camera away from those.
The camera, oh boy, look at all this stuff.
Hey
guys.
To the guy behind the curtain.
Oh, awesome. It's the new Urban Arrow.
Special, highly engineered Nikolai.
Excellent. Thank you so much for setting this up. I was really excited to check out the motors back to back, do some comparisons, and even some ride stuff. So later on, I'm going to try to show the motors back to back, you know, up close on the bikes. But they're all laid out beautifully right here. And maybe we can start down at the high end. The whole idea behind this video was to talk about each of the 5 different motors that Bosch offers. Each one has a different performance characteristic, different weight, different price point. And you were talking to me earlier, you were saying, you know, who are e-bikes for?
Yeah, who are e-bikes for? They're for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And we realize that, and that's why over time, we've extended our product portfolio of drive units to cover every type of person and every type of riding.
Yeah.
So our 5 different drive units, different max torque, max speed, and they're suited for different types of bikes, which you'll see in this.
And just get right into it. So I'm gonna, I try to do these reviews independently and dig into the specs and stuff. That's the idea. So from here on out, I'm gonna jump right in. The highest performance motor that Bosch makes is the Performance Line CX, and you can see it here on a full suspension mountain bike from iZip, and then that's the actual drive unit itself, not installed on a bike. I love that you guys have splined spindles here, so it's gonna grab the crank arms a little bit better than like square tapered. It's higher end unit. This one weighs 8.8 pounds and it offers up to 75 Newton meters of torque. So most of these Bosch motor systems are rated at 250 watts nominal, right? And except the speed motor, which we'll get to in a second. But it's sort of confusing. It's like, well, 250 watts, like, well, what's the difference? Torque is the difference, and also maybe the performance profile, so a little bit more zippy and active feeling on the Performance Line CX. Would you agree with that?
Exactly. So faster response, especially at low cadence, low speed on the Performance Line CX. So it's, especially when you're mountain bike riding, you appreciate that quicker response and a little bit more peppier feel.
Yeah, you need that support if you're climbing a steeper hill and maybe in precarious terrain.
Exactly.
One of the things I love about all of these systems is that you're measuring the rear wheel speed, pedal cadence, and pedal torque over 1,000 times per second. And Bosch is known for their sensor design. You said these motors, they'd use components and stuff from some of your automotive and...
Yeah, so all this technology actually migrated from our automotive business and our power tools business way back in the day, almost 10 years ago when we started. And yes, the automotive electronics and the sensors came from vehicles.
Beautiful. And Bosch has, before we get into all the rest of them, we're starting with kind of top of the line performance wise, but this is also more expensive, makes a little bit more noise. I guess I wanted to call out that you do have a great warranty. You have great support. So it's like two-year comprehensive warranty. You've got a network of dealers in North America that are set up to service this stuff. And that's important when you're really pushing a drive system like this. One of the other unique characteristics of all of your drive systems is that they have shift detection. And that's something that it's kind of unique to Bosch, right? It's designed to tell the motors, especially the high torque motor, to ease off a little bit if it notices you shifting. It listens for like the torque difference between your pedal cadence and a shifting torque change, and then it eases back a little bit because, mid-drive motors, they're interacting with your drivetrain. That's part of what makes them so efficient. But okay, so that was the Performance Line CX. The other really neat thing about that specific drive unit is that it works with EMTB mode, which stands for like electric mountain bike mode. And it's sort of a set it and forget it, like all in one.
Right.
So you don't the way that this system works, if you're new to the Bosch system, is there's like Eco, Tour, Sport, or Turbo. And those are the different assist levels. But they said, well, Eco and Tour is good. Sport, it has its place, but what if we replace that with like a full range, so you get like 120 up to 300% support all in one, and it's more based on how you're pedaling and how you're interacting. And that's important.
How much force you're putting into the pedals.
Yeah, like the torque sensing.
Assist, right.
That's fantastic, especially when you're riding a mountain biking trail and you don't want to be distracted by pressing these different buttons and looking at the display. By the way, this is the Bosch Intuvia. It's the larger display. It's got the remote button pad. A lot of the other bikes that are trying to be a little sportier or maybe save money or maybe be a little bit more hidden if you're on a mountain bike, that's the Purion display, and you can see it here. So those are the two different displays that we see in North America. So we're jumping up from the highest torque, highest power Bosch motor, Performance Line CX, to the Performance Line Cruise and Speed. So here's the Cruise unit. You can see it's just on this nice step-through bike. It's going to be a little bit punchier. It's going to give you a little bit more climbing power, but it's not quite as high in terms of torque as the CX motor. Okay, this one only offers 63 Newton meters of torque, and it comes in a 20 mile per hour version that we see here, and a 28 mile per hour version that we see on this Trek. And this is, I mean, you can just tell, this is like a race car. This is the Super Commuter 8. Yeah, but the motors, it's kind of, you know, similar hardware. They're both called Performance Line. One just goes faster. They both have 63 Newton meters of torque. They still have the shift detection and everything. You know, again, this is, what did you say? It's sort of a do-everything motor, or?
Yeah, it's the most versatile of all the drive units.
There we go. Most versatile. A little bit more efficient, maybe a little bit quieter, and it might suck the battery slower than on like the CX, because the CX is like high power.
Right.
Okay, so that's cool. The other interesting thing to see when we're looking at any of the Performance Line motors, they support pedal cadence up to 120 RPM, which is pretty fast. That's for people who, you know, you might be on that mountain bike and not ready to shift gears. You're just going to pedal a little bit faster as you're going from, you know, ascending to descending, and the motor's going to keep up with you at 120 RPM. As soon as we step down here to the Active Line motors, you get support up to 105 RPM with the Active Line Plus, or just 100 RPM with the standard Active Line. Okay, and these are really new for 2018. You did have an Active Line motor in like 2015 or 2017, and it looked a lot like, you know, these Performance Line motors. It had the smaller sprocket and everything. Now you've taken and reduced the size, you've reduced the weight, and you've kind of split it into two. Does that sound right?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Completely redesigned.
Yeah, it's redesigned, and it's neat to see just how much smaller it is. So whereas all these Performance Line motors, they weigh about 8.8 pounds, the Active Line Plus motor, that's 7.1 pounds, and then the standard Active Line is just 6.3 pounds, and it's quite a bit smaller. You know, it's a little bit, just the profile and everything, and the weight, it's not quite as long. And if we look at the chain ring that's used on these, it's a more traditionally sized chain ring that spins at sort of a 1-to-1 ratio, whereas your Performance Line motors, they had this reduction gearing, and it was like 2.5 revolutions for every single crank revolution. Okay, so, you know, when you take out that gearbox and you move to a smaller, lighter footprint, this is going to be more efficient. You got the weight savings. You've got a little bit of a lowered pedal RPM, but if you pedal on your own above that, you don't get some of that friction, the drag from the gearbox. They're going to be a lot quieter too, and just more affordable. So we were looking at this Trek over here. I mean, it has lights built in, it has fenders, it's got your Power Pack 400, which is a little bit lower capacity than the 500 we see on the fancier bikes over here. But it was like $2,300 or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Compared to, I mean, some of these are like $4,000 or $5,000. Some of the what is it? Performance Line CX. You don't see that on bikes lower than like 4,000.
Typically, right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So hopefully you're getting an idea for the differences between each motor. I also wanted to highlight that these batteries are interchangeable. So you might be someone who, you know, if my girlfriend's like really active and she loves riding on a mountain bike, but I'm more just joining her occasionally, like on the weekend, and I have one of these, you know, Active Line motors. we can swap batteries, even if she has the 500 watt hour battery and I have the 400, or she could borrow my battery and go camping with it or something like that. I love that your batteries are interchangeable, whether it's the rear rack batteries or the down two batteries. And Bosch has two different chargers. So they have this 4 amp charger. It's 1.7 pounds, a little bit heavier, but it gives you a faster fill. And they've got this compact charger, 2 amps, but lightweight. You know, we were talking about that camping scenario earlier. It's nice to have those. They both have the same plug, so they're compatible with any of the Bosch batteries. And Jonathan was telling me that these are Underwriter Labs certified, so UL certified.
Yeah, UL certified.
It's sort of a peace of mind that, you know, back to the warranty, and you're dealing with Bosch. Like, you guys...
Right. Quality.
Yeah, reliability,
Quality.
Safety, everything. It's all wrapped up there. That's great. So before we finish, I'm going to hop on each one of these bikes. I'm going to ride them a little bit and put the camera on it so you guys can see the motors and choose for yourself what's going on. I'm going to ride them in the highest level of assist and in a lower gear, so you can kind of get a feel for some consistency across the bikes and, you know, what to expect. This is the Performance Line CX. I'm in turbo mode, which is the highest, and a relatively low gear. This is the Performance Line Cruise in turbo and a relatively low gear. This is the Performance Line Speed in a relatively low gear. This is the Active Line Plus in turbo mode and relatively low gear. And the Active Line in turbo mode, relatively low gear. Well, that was pretty awesome. I really enjoy coming like on site, getting to go to, you know, Bosch official and hanging out with my friend, but also someone who knows all about all the details and stuff. I hope that helps you guys out. I'm gonna post this along with some details and stuff back at the site in the forums. but you have an official Bosch page.
Oh yeah, www.bosch-ebike.us.
Fantastic, Jonathan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clark.
We'll see you next time.
Later.